2 Capture Point, or 2 CP, was the most hated game mode for all of Overwatch 1's lifetime, and it was so bad it was removed and replaced with Push upon Overwatch 2's release. The devs have made no sign to return it to Ranked or even Quick Play, and the only way to play it now is through Customs or Arcade. In Season 12, Clash made its debut and became the second game mode removed from competitive play and put on an indefinite leave while the devs work on fixing and re-releasing it. If Clash can get the rework treatment, then why can't 2CP? After all, 5v5 and many other changes have been made since it was in play, so the game looks completely different since 2CP was out. So I mean, why not? If Clash can be given a second chance, then I think a mode not tried for 3 years also deserves a re-examination and potential reintroduction. Hey guys, welcome back to another Overwatch video, and today we'll be talking about whether 2CP should return to Overwatch or not. Make sure to like, subscribe, check out my Twitch in the bio, and let's just get right into it. So what was the problem with 2CP? I mean, if 2CP is to return, then we must know that the problems it had would be fixed, or can potentially be fixed. So first let's start with the formula that most 2CP maps were centered around. The first objective is an average distance away for the attackers that centers around a single choke that has little to no alternate paths that you can take, meaning it has a heavy defender's advantage, allowing for easy choke stuffing and forcing either coordination, lucky picks, or big mistakes from the defending side. However, the defense only has one spawn room, being before second point, so if anyone on that side is picked, it usually means a 15 to 30 second run back. This results in the first point being heavily centered around being able to walk through the choke as a team manage to find an opportunity to get some value, while the defenders just have to hold their massive advantage. The result of this design was that the first point was either a wash or a 4-minute impossible slog until overtime, where the round ended. This is because most teams in most ranks lack the coordination to walk through choke and make a combined effort that would be needed to overcome the high defender's advantage. Alternatively, the defenders can make an easily early mistake and you get an early pick without trading, which usually snowballs into capping instantly, creating a first point where defenders have a simple job, but due to the long respawn, a death is either a boring walk back or the beginning of a snowball to lead to the end of a round, while the attackers either breeze through or have to go what feels like an unreasonable steps just to get to the objective. Keep in mind, the first point was usually the good one. Second point keeps some things the same, but also changes a bit in terms of advantages. The attackers are now the ones with a 15 to 30 second walk back, but in return, the choke is much more lenient, while also having better alternate lanes that you can flank or go down on instead, giving your team much more options. Also, having the walkback is less severe for attackers to have rather than defenders, because it's not like the defenders can do anything to the objective while you're dead. If the attackers have a 15 to 30 second walkback, then the defense has a 3 to 8 second walkback, allowing the defenders to maintain a similar large advantage to what they had on the first point. However, this is now due to respawn speed and not something like overwhelming high ground or lack of cover for attackers. This creates point that is much more fair in the sense that it has opportunities and angles for both defense and offense, but due to respawn speeds, what most often happens is the offense will win the fight but only get a tick or not even because they will trade in the process, and because the defenders will always be back first, they will be able to regroup and recontest and take the objective back easily. Usually it's either a complete shutout or a snowball effect instacap due to staggers after capping first, or waiting until overtime where respawn speeds are increased. Sounds pretty bad, right? Well, it was, and that's why it was removed. But the game has changed drastically since Overwatch 1, and let's look at some of the changes to characters and otherwise that may be able to save, or at least improve 2CP. Let's start with the big one being 5v5. With there being one less tank, the map has been opened considerably, and 2CP would be no different. Part of the difficulty of 2CP really was that other tank. This is because if the attack was stacking main, it would be much more pressure placed on your front line, and if your team was trying to play more split and take angles, the main tank could anchor while the other shuts those down, putting the attackers in a much rougher position. Now angles that might not have been able to be taken by DPS are much more available and useful. 5v5 in general just leaves a lot more of the map available and would help make 2CP a much more viable game mode. Another thing that would help is the character reworks. Some of the strongest strategies in 2CP revolved around barriers and crowd control, both things which Overwatch 2 has done away with for the most part. Some of the best strategies for 2CP, such as Orisa Shield, Halt, May Freeze, Bastion Permanent Turret, and OG Sombra Hack, are no longer options, and those definitely would be felt. Not to mention the Reinhardt and Sigma barrier health reduction would also help quite a bit. Overall, the things that were so defender beneficial and iconic of the OG 2CP are gone or worse now, which is something to consider when talking about bringing this game mode back. Next we have something more minor, being the Wave Respawn. Introduced in Season 12, Wave Respawn has been a relatively silent change with not too much discussion about it, but I believe it will help the case for 2CP. Much of the problem of 2CP was that people would be able to keep trickling in and constantly contesting, eventually giving enough time for the whole team to come back and recontest, which made it very difficult to get progress on the objective. But because most of the time people will be forced to respawn together, I believe it'll be a much easier time to get a tick or two. Now you also might be able to say this would allow much more coordinated respawns, which, when everyone is back, would make it even harder to get progress on the objective, which could be true, but even so, with some possible number tweaks, I think it'll be fine, as usually whoever gets first would be able to contest and stop their progress, but now someone killed by themselves without a wave will have an even longer respawn time, and make it more difficult for the recontest. In addition to that, the overtime respawn was increased as well, giving you more of a window to get objective time. I think all of this helps, but if we need more to work on, there is always the idea of map reworks. Starting with attack, I think moving up the spawn doors would be a great start. This would allow quicker regrouping after someone died early, and also make trading your life for your team getting on the objective less overly costly. In addition to that, if you do lose the fight before you get on the objective as attack, it would just cut down on the overall time waster that is running back to where the fight is next. Let's focus on Temple of Anubis, Hanamura, and Volskaya Industries first, because it would probably take some extra time for them to bring back Horizon Lunar Colony, and especially Paris, considering they were already too bad in the general roster in the first place. Starting with Hanamura, I think the spawn room can be moved up to here right before the gate. Before you would have to walk past the first point to even begin walking to the lane you want to go on, but now the doors are much more fair and would cut down on the walk back time immensely, especially for the more immobile heroes. Next, for Temple of Anubis, the spawn could be moved up to here. This map is a bit more difficult to pinpoint a good spawn spot considering how small it is, but here would allow good cover for walking out of spawn while doing the same job of reducing the walk back time, even if briefly. Volskaya Industries' new spawn room can be replaced right here. It would do the same job as the other two, reducing the overall walk back while maintaining the idea of putting it before the gate or doorway that separates it from the path to the other objective. If new spawn rooms aren't enough, then I think we should rework the chokes to make the attackers less reliant on them and give them more options, creating better access to the right and left lanes, or even improving access to the existing lanes would give yet more options to the attackers and make the maps more fair. On Temple of Anubis first, you could probably make a hole here to give access to the right side flank without peeking and taking 32 trillion damage from the high ground. This would essentially create the opportunity to go to the right instead of left and give the chance for DPS to take better angles from there. Because as it's currently implemented, I don't think I've seen people take the right side successfully more than 10 times. Aside from that, Temple of Anubis would need a greater overhaul, changing where the defender's high ground is, and to be honest, I don't think it needs that, as in my opinion, it's the best 2CP map. Hanamura is a bit more you could change. For starters, you could create an elevator to this window here, or just a staircase, allowing less mobile heroes to utilize this part of the map, similar to how they changed Shirado. After that, you could create a right flank somewhere here connecting this building better to the attacking side. The right already has a good amount of cover and high ground. All that's realistically needed is a method to go there. Next, you could change the left even more, also adding a tunnel in the gate under the window. But this would be a bit redundant alongside the window elevator, so maybe you add one and not the other. On second point, you could change the left flank to make the bridge finish all the way across, because before, without a Symmetra TP, most characters would be out of luck. If second point needs anything else, then maybe extend the main entrance to allow a bit more cover for the people entering, as the main was often avoided for the top right. With Volskaya Industries first, we're doing similar things. First, extending the left bridge for more characters to use, making a hole in the bridge on the right so people can access that room easier. On Volskaya second, I would keep the same, as the spawn room was probably the main culprit, but you could also put another hole in the wall to allow better left side flanking, as the right is already pretty well made. With all these attacking buffs, we want to make sure it's still possible to defend, so we might want to consider bringing the first spawn room doors closer, but that would most likely be after more testing. So is 2CP redeemable? Probably, but it's going to be a very long time, or never, before the mass return. What shows this most is the game mode mentioned in the beginning of the video, Clash. They wanted a way for people to experience the 2CP maps again without actually bringing back the game mode, so they created Clash. However, since they now have to worry about fixing and returning that too, I doubt fixing 2CP is on their priority list at all. But we can hope, or be content if you don't like 2CP. Thanks for watching this far, hope you enjoyed. My name is Excel, and make sure to like, subscribe, check out my Twitch, and have a great day.